Testing 1, 2. Test.
I've been a troublemaker, I've been a late-night player, I've been broke as a joke, I've been a money maker, I've been a record breaker, taking credit as an educator, I've been known to spit the flows and make it shaky, shaky thing, popping, lock and stop and let it hang. Watch us as we drop this hip-hop, it's like it stings. We make a whole room drop and everybody sing. We want the funk, we gotta have that funk. We kick it old school, we think we're so cool. We take it back to the past, we gonna act a fool. Up jumps the middle finger, make my
Hello, and welcome to Sports Buzz, the Fanatical View. I am your host, Scott D. Lewis, here live in studio, Comcast Cable Channel 23 on this April 3rd, 2014. We flipped the calendar one more time. The weather getting a touch better.
Yes, it's very
starting
much
to
better.
feel a little bit more spring-like. Actually, pretty nice couple last days. Some nice
like
flowers budding through the
Almost
ground.
like, 60 plus today?
Yeah, it was pretty good. So we're happy about that. We're here, of course, 6 to 6:30, back in our usual time slot, back live, ready to talk about all the sporting news there is to fit. And my right-hand man, Mr. Bob Raw Jr., is here.
Yes, I am.
And, of course, we're recovering from the crazy running around to get the show up on the air on time. Always a good time here at the studio,
Had a lot of things going
downtown
on
Danbury,
today,
Connecticut, Channel 23. Bob was all over the place today.
Yeah.
And, with everything that took place in Boston last week with firefighters, Bob is involved with the firefighters, and there was a fire today.
Yeah,
So
in Torrington, which was a pretty bad one. They called out for a task force from Danbury, so.
the Danbury crew went up and helped.
Yeah.
I'm sure a bunch of Danbury firefighters went up to Boston to pay respects to the two fallen firefighters.
I was watching some of it today. It was
Big crowds
definitely
there.
moving.
I know a handful of firefighters in the area around the state, and I know some of them who went up, and they stick together no matter what part of the country it is. When a firefighter goes down, they feel that pain. So we thank them for all the work they do and protecting everybody. First people to run into the house to save everybody. So we tip our hats to them. And of course, Bob's show, Spotlight On, Tuesday nights at 9, Wednesdays at 12. I'm sure he's covering some Danbury Whalers
Yes,
action.
I am. The Whalers are at home this weekend
For the playoffs.
For the playoffs.
Bumped up playoff. Did they advance the schedule?
Well, Dayton is ahead 1-0.
Okay,
They play
so it might be
tomorrow night against Watertown, and then
the winner of that series comes flying right into Danbury. For a 3-game series, winner take all, 2 out of 3, and I believe, according to the newspaper, that all 3 of those games will be in Danbury. Home ice gets them every home game, every game. So the Whalers will be in town this weekend. Whether it takes 2 or 3 games, we will see, and they will look to bring home their back-to-back FHL Cup championship.
Would be nice.
That would be nice. There's been, a lot of things going on with the Whalers this year, off the ice and all that stuff. But hey, if you can finish the season off on a high note with the championship, everybody will at least be happy about that. So we will see what happens with them. We're not sure, possibly.
Yes, he's here.
Our regular director, Mr. Mike Toohey, may have arrived.
He's here.
He is here, okay. Expose Cinema, his show, Friday nights at 9, Wednesdays at 1. And we also thank Mr. Mike McFadden for filling in for the opening moments. Mike has also been joining the show, helping out quite a bit in recent weeks. And we had him actually filling in for Bob a few weeks ago. And Bob, of course, called in and said, "What, are you kicking me off the show?" So anyways, all right, let's get down to it. Phone number is 203-792-4101.
Before we start, do you like your
Yes. Opening day was this week. Baseball started, and we have a nice new book right here. You can see it. Bob's fiancée,
Yes.
Jolene, came through. I just got it. She just handed it to me right before the show. Bob did. Boston Red Sox, an illustrated history. Love it. And it looks, I'm not sure what year it was printed, how current it
I think it
is.
goes up to 2007.
Yeah, see right on the back here, at least 2007 championship. Not last year's championship, that's all right. But this is looks like quite a book. So we will thank Jolene, the lovely fiance for Mr. Bob Broad Jr. there, for that wonderful gift. It'll add, I've got a few good Red Sox books at home, and this one will add to that collection. And I appreciate that greatly.
Her grandfather was a big Red Sox fan.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Well, I knew I liked her, and I like her even more now. He, for grandfathers.
Yeah,
That's how I got started in Boston. My grandfather being a Red Sox fan, and led me down the road of all Boston sports.
She's a diehard Yankee fan.
I don't like that about her.
Yeah.
How could she do that to her grandfather, Bob?
She's a diehard Red Sox fan, or Yankees. Of course, I'm a Met.
Yeah.
My dad was a big Yankee fan, so.
Why don't we just go right ahead and do a little quick baseball since we're on that topic. I got to get to our Final Four and UConn Huskies, of course, and some other stuff. But let's just touch on baseball real quick. Speaking of those Mets, Bob.
Yeah, Parnell's down and out.
Parnell's out for who knows how long. Could be forever, knowing the way injuries with the Mets go.
Yeah, and
they don't
lost
have a
again
first
today.
baseman. I mean, they haven't officially announced who their first baseman is. Terry Collins said after today's game he will announce it before the next game. They are 0-3 after falling this afternoon 8-2 to the Nats.
So we're about right where we're supposed to be.
Wheeler
Last
wasn't
place.
too bad. The starting pitching really hasn't been that bad. Bullpen been atrocious.
All we got for a pitcher was Cologne. That's the only thing we really picked up.
Yeah, and I think actually Cologne could pitch well in that ballpark in the National League. He did have good numbers last year with Oakland in that cavernous ballpark they have out in Oakland.
And of course, Granderson was from the Yankees from last year.
Granderson, I don't know what Granderson did. And there, we're showing off this new shot here, Bob. Why don't you turn around and say hello? All right, we're showing off this new shot. We're working on some new stuff here. Well, maybe we'll keep this shot around for long. Who knows? We'll try it out
Very
this week.
seldom people ever see me on camera, so.
We thought maybe we'd give Bob a little bit of airtime besides the microphone. But anyways, Granderson, he comes in and he just, it's like every free agent they ever sign.
Yeah.
But still, you have to almost know this was going to happen. Much like with Jason Bay.
Yeah.
How many strikeouts did he have with the Red Sox? Why did they let him go? Because he struck out all the time, and
he was always hurt.
240.
He would get hurt.
Well, he wasn't really hurt with the Red Sox. That
No, but
happened
when
once
he came
got
to the Mets, he
Right.
was out. He was prone to
But
get.
Granderson, he has big strikeout numbers. Bob, they set a record, 31 strikeouts in the first two games combined.
Yeah, that's all new.
It's a modern era record.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. 31 strikeouts. And of course, Granderson had 5. I don't know. I think he had an RBI in today's game, so he finally got a hit. But they did lose 8-2 today. And of course, the opening day is just a total disaster.
Oh, yeah.
Daniel Murphy's wife is having a baby, so all of a sudden, last minute, they notify the fans that he can't play. Everybody's wondering what's going on with that. That sets a bad omen. And then the bullpen implodes on them, and they lose an extra innings.
They were
game
up,
they should have won.
Up 3-0.
They had 3 leads in that game.
And then they went to, it was 4-0. Then of course, then it was 4-2. Then we had bases loaded twice.
Right. And then we see Dylan G right there. He looked pretty good in that. Opening,
eventually
in that
it was 5-5 in the top of the 10th, and then of course the implosion just.
Yeah.
They got 4 runs and
they had like 3 chances in the 9th inning to end it, and they couldn't do it. And that was it. They lose it in extra innings, going away. So 0-3. Almost as bad is 0-2, and that would be the New York Yankees. I mean, at least the Mets, they are at home.
Right.
So you don't want to lose home games, but they're playing the Nats, Washington Nationals, who have a good team. A lot of people picked them to bounce back and do what they were supposed to do last year.
The Nets have a good record too. So as far as things,
but
they also
the Yankees, they go down deep in the heart of Texas and face the lowly Astros.
Yeah, the former National League team.
Yeah, which I still let's not get started on that. You know my feelings on that whole realignment thing. The Colorado Rockies should be the American League team, not the Houston Astros. But they go down there, and Derek Jeter's farewell tour begins with him getting plunked on the first at bat. Bob, I got to say, I don't know what's going on with Mike in the control room, but he's loving these photos, leaving them on for. Is the photo freezing, Mike? I mean, he's just sitting there on one photo for long.
Oh, yeah?
Mike say he's razzled tonight. Comes in late, showing up, pictures. All right. Yankees, they start with the 0-2 down in Houston, and Jeter getting plunked in that first at bat.
Yeah.
Welcome. It's a fine hello and goodbye. Houston showing him no respect, the captain, saying, this could be your last year, but we don't care. We're going to bean you in your first at bat. And CC blows up.
Yep.
He gives up 6 runs, and they just look terrible. And now they bounce back last night and lose again by not scoring any runs. So the Yankees off to a terrible start. Of course, Mike thinks we're talking about the Red Sox with the photos that are on the screen.
Speaking of the Red Sox, how are they doing?
Red Sox got on the win column last night. 1-1.
Hey, at least they're even money. 500 baseball.
They, it's interesting, Bob. When you win the World Series, you get a little bit of a different attitude starting the year. Because many a time when the Red Sox have lost opening day, the media, the fans start screaming, the sky is falling, this team's terrible, these guys are bums, it's going to be a long year. They lost 2-1 to the Orioles the other night. They left a bunch of men on base. They hit the ball well. They had guys all over the place. And the wind knocked down a bunch of balls that could have been home runs possibly on a windy night in Camden Yards. But nobody was screaming. Nobody was saying nothing. They are the defending World Series champions. They brought back a lot of guys. They did lose a couple. They have to get used to life without Jacoby Ellsbury. And Shane Victorino is hurt. So that isn't a good way to start the season with Victorino out on the DL with a hamstring. So they have things to get used to, and there's question marks for sure. New catcher, A.J. Pernitzky over Saltamacchia, and things like that. But pitching so far in the first 2 games been very good. Bullpen's been good. Last night they saw the power come back with Big Papi going yard. Mike Napoli, we had our first Alva Napoli get out of here, go to Naples, big home run by him to break the tie late in that game. The one move the Orioles made, Bob, Nelson Cruz, looking pretty good. He's got 2 home runs already on the young season.
Orioles have a good foundation.
It's going to be a competitive season in the AL East, Bob. Orioles made a couple slick moves, I thought. And, we know that Tampa Bay's got pitching, and they're always hanging around. The Yankees went on the $450 million spending spree. See what that does for them. And the Red Sox are the defending champs. And Toronto, let's not forget, they made, a bunch of moves last year.
Right.
Those moves they made last year didn't work out, but they could work out this year. Those guys are still there.
Yeah.
I mean it's not like, they could be healthy this year and things could fall right, although Jose Reyes got hurt on the first game yesterday, of course.
Yeah. He's going to be, and he'll be out halfway through the season. Don't get me started.
Typical Jose Reyes.
Yeah.
So, interesting start to the baseball season as we have rambled on.
Well, how about those Dodgers?
I know they won out in Australia.
Yeah,
and then
2 games, and then they won. I think they're like 4-0.
4-0. Are they 4-0? I thought maybe they had gotten picked off one game, but maybe not.
But I thought they were 4. Or maybe it's 4-1.
We'll start looking more heavily. I do want to get moving on to the Final Four. And the Huskies that roared their way all the way in. No one believes in this team, Bob.
Okay, now did you have them all the way through?
I had them to the Elite 8.
Yeah.
I did not have them making the Final Four. I had them losing actually to Virginia. But Virginia got picked off by Michigan State.
Yeah, Michigan State.
In a 61-59 loss in the Sweet 16. And then a lot of people had picked Michigan State. A lot of people were jumping on Louisville to go back-to-back. Both those teams are gone, not in the Final Four. It is UConn versus Florida, and it is Wisconsin versus the upstart young 5 freshman Kentucky Wildcats.
I watched the Kentucky game. That was a nail-biter
Kentucky,
right to
I tell you, they're coming on strong, much like UConn. Their freshmen, though, are getting it going quick. They knocked off Louisville down by 7 with about 3 minutes left. came back in the Sweet 16, and then they hit the big 3.
Now, didn't UConn beat Florida during the regular season?
The last loss by the Florida Gators took place on December 2nd up here in Connecticut on a buzzer beater by Shabazz Napier. Scotty Wilbekin got hurt and left that game in the last 5 minutes, but he played most of the game. I was seeing people write articles that he was out of that game. I mean, he played the whole game. He was out in the final few minutes of the game. And the Huskies won that game back on December 2nd. That was their last loss. And also worth noting, Bob, their only other loss on the year was given to them by Wisconsin.
Ooh.
So if they get through UConn and Wisconsin gets past Kentucky, they would have to, avenge 2 losses basically. So they could get their revenge on both those teams to get the championship.
What was Wisconsin's record?
I don't have their record in front of me, to tell you the truth. But they're a top 5 offensive team. Bo Ryan has never brought his Wisconsin Badgers to the Final Four. Typically, they are a Big Ten team that plays a lot of defense. But they have offense this year, Bob. So a lot of people were saying it was going to be interesting to see if they could break through, and that they have. Behind the big man for them, really playing well for Wisconsin. Their big guy in the middle doing yeoman's work, getting everything done for them. Frank Kaminsky getting it done, and Charles Barkley singing his praises, just saying give it to the big man in the middle, and actually he can step outside. So they have a solid, well-rounded team that can score, they can go inside, they can play defense, and they're going to have to try to shut down this Kentucky team that is suddenly making all their shots.
Twins on the team, right?
The Harrison brothers, and one of them hit the 3-point shot to break the tie to get them in over Michigan in their Elite Eight game as he hit the buzzer beating. There's about 3 seconds left or so left when he hit the 3. And that's the thing that's going on with Kentucky right now. They are making shots from all over the court. They're making the can't believe it shots.
Yes.
Deep threes everywhere going down. Or is that going to continue here in the Final Four in the big dome in North Texas? We'll see if they can get that going. Because, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they're making shots that they got no business making, really. And I also have to say, Bob, I do believe, and I said it after the Wichita State game, and I think it continued, that the refs are tilting the games in their favor. The calls at the end of the Louisville game I thought were pretty ridiculous. There was a non-offensive foul call when the guy basically launched himself.
Yeah, I remember. He went over to...
Yeah, they launched that defender, was basically ended up in the first row. No call at all. That was ridiculous. And then they foul out Louisville's big man in the final 2 minutes of that game on weak fouls. And that helped them erase a 7-point deficit in the final 3 minutes. So I think they're getting the benefit of the calls from the refs, and they're getting the unconscious shots from deep, hitting 3 balls from way outside. So if they can keep that up, they're going to be tough. And, they are 5 freshmen. Last time this happened was the Fab Five Michigan days, that we had 5 starters as freshmen. We know that when Kentucky won a couple years ago, they were mostly freshmen, but they did have 1 senior on that team. So this is a different deal for them. So we'll see what they can do against Wisconsin. UConn, the thing that most impressed me about the game against Michigan State was the interior defense, specifically Philip Nolan. Everybody knows Shabazz Napier leads this team, and it's the backcourt of him and Ryan Boatwright that is the engine that runs this team. But when you saw what they did, if you watch the game tape on this and you go back and break it down, you will see guys on the interior pushing the other team out of the box, not letting them get position where they want it, and playing sound fundamental defense inside and getting rebounds as well, boxing out. That was, I think, the difference, the half-court defense. UConn raced out to a 12-2 run in this game, 10-point lead, and then they started missing shots.
Yeah.
And Michigan State actually was able to take a half-court lead.
Well, they were up like 12 points, right?
And then they built the lead in the early goings in the second half. But what was happening was UConn was not making shots at that time, so they could not set their defense on the half court, and they got caught in transition, and Michigan State hit a bunch of 3-point shots in transition where UConn couldn't match up, and they were kicking it out to the wing on the fast break, and that kind of screwed the game up. But I kept saying to my buddies, they're getting the shots they want, UConn is. They got to just keep doing what they're doing, make their shots, and they will reset their defense, and they will be able to shut them down. And it happened. We kept the faith, and that's what they did. They started making their shots. They started getting to the free throw line, where they have been unbelievable, Bob, from the free throw line. Another game where they hit 15 straight. They did that in the St. Joe's game. They've done it seemingly every game. They all of a sudden you look up and they're 15 in a row at one point in these games, and it's really helping them out. So if they can get to the line against Florida, if they can play that half-court defense, here's another thing worth noting, Bob. Florida only plays about 5-6 guys. They do not go deep at all.
They do not change.
You know, it's their 5 starters plus 1, maybe 2 guys off the bench. If you can get 1-2 guys in foul trouble, or if you can get them fatigued by pounding them inside, you know, and UConn's perimeter guys, they like to drive the lane. They can hit the 3-shot, but they also like to penetrate and dish, or penetrate and go right to the rim. So, and you know, add in the long and lanky DeAndre Daniels, and maybe we can have another Dre day. He had 27 points, career high against Iowa State in the Sweet 16. So that was huge. You know, we've got him going. And Giffey is a solid player. He struggled against Iowa State, but he did hit a big 3 when they were trying to make their run late, which really gave them some breathing room in the final 2 minutes. And he also did good work against Michigan State. You got Brema off the bench. You got that kid Croma, the transfer from George Washington. Olander's a senior as well. And the kid Samuel, it's a really change of pace guy. We've been talking about old-time Huskies as this run has been going on, my buddies and I. And we were talking about their old, you remember from the NBA days, the microwave Vinnie Johnson from Detroit. But remember, in the early days of the Husky run, the '89 Dream season, it was Johnny Gwynn, the change of pace guy coming off the bench.
We're talking some names out of the past.
Yes, and Samuels right now is fitting that bill. Change of pace, high energy guy, come in, instant offense. So he's doing some pretty good work for them off the bench. So they're bringing 3-4 guys off the bench, where Florida's only bringing 1 or 2. So that's worth watching. The other thing worth watching is, you know, the Huskies did have the benefit of playing in the Garden these past 2 weekends.
Yes, and that was a milestone for them to be back.
Yeah, I mean, they were loving it after being, you know, basically kicked out of the Big East in the AAC. Didn't get to play in the Big East tournament garden party, and they got matched up here in the Eastern bracket of the March Madness here, and they made it to the, you know, it was the first time in over 50 years that the March Madness went to the Garden. And also worth noting, Bob, actually, Larry Brown and SMU is in the final for the NIT in the Garden tonight, as a matter of fact. Larry Brown and SMU got no respect, did not make the big dance here, but they've proven themselves going to the NIT championship game. And they beat UConn twice this year, and they're not even in the tournament. But, you know, now they have to leave the Garden, head down to this big building down there in Texas. And, you know, a lot of times the shooting sight lines in these domes can be a problem for these guys as they play. You know, there could be 100,000 people in this building. So it's a different deal. You know, the dark lights of Madison Square Garden are not going to be helping them. They're going to be in the big open space. So we'll see what happens in this rematch against Florida. Florida, of course, the number 1 team, overall number 1. UConn a 7 seed. The other side, it's the number 8 seed Kentucky against the number 2 seed Wisconsin. So it's going to be good. Billy Donovan, of course, coach of Florida, 2 titles as he won back-to-back 7 years ago.
Right.
And I did not realize, you know, this Florida team went to 3 straight Elite Eights. That is here now in their 4th go-around with these seniors. And if Donovan were to come away with the title, he would join a list, pretty short list of guys who've won 3 titles or more.
Who are the 3 guys?
John Wooden, the legend. Rupp from Kentucky. We
have a mystery note coming in.
Of course, Coach K with Duke, and Bobby Knight with Indiana, and Coach Calhoun with UConn. So, we have Strangeman stepping in as well, showing up. So it was Rupp, Wooden, Krzyzewski, Calhoun, and Knight are the only 5 guys to have 3 titles or more. Billy Donovan trying to break into that. Calipari has his 1 title. We know he has also 2 vacated Final Fours with UMass and Memphis. It's only a matter of time for that title with Kentucky before that gets vacated, right, Bob?
Yes, it is.
Probably. The Huskies have their 3 titles. And of course, we should mention the Lady Huskies are back
yes,
as well.
They are going to the.
Could it be another 2004, 2011 situation? And Bo Ryan is in his first Final Four. Huskies undefeated. Notre Dame is undefeated. That'll be interesting if they play, because with the realigned conferences, they did not have to play their rival Notre Dame, and both of them come in undefeated.
Yes. So what's
and
our
strange man stat of the week? Let's finish strong with some NBA. I know we don't have much time. The Knicks are finally winning, he says, and that they are. Bob, I have called this from, going back 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
I said the Hawks were going to collapse. I said the Knicks bottoming it out at like 18 games below 500. We're still not out because the Hawks were losing at an epic rate. And now, if you look in the standings today, the Knicks are percentage points ahead of the Atlanta Hawks for the 8th and final playoff seed. They are actually 1 game out in the loss column, still 1 behind the Hawks at 33 and 43, Hawks at 32 and 42 games in hand. But the Hawks are pathetic, Bob. This is going to be one of the all-time greatest collapses in the history of sports. We will break down those numbers next week as it gets closer. They're 3-7 in their last 10. That's fresh on the heels of going 1-14 in a 15-game stretch before that. This is unbelievable. And the Knicks, give them credit, 3-2 on the road trip. They beat the Warriors. That was a big win. And that was after they beat the Pacers on that homestand beforehand. That was a big win. Then they come home and they beat the Nets last night. Brooklyn on back-to-backs came in, rolled over for them as the Knicks blow them out. They're going to finish right here, Bob. At home against the Wizards. Then they head to Miami and head to Toronto, who is still holding off the Brooklyn Nets for the 3rd seed and their division championship. They're trying to bring home there to Toronto. Then they go to Chicago and go to the Nets. They come home for Chicago and then finish at the Nets and at Toronto. So they get Toronto twice. They get the Wizards in Chicago at home, and they get at Miami, at Toronto, at the Nets to finish. So will they be able to do it, Bob?
I don't know.
What say thee? I don't think it really matters.
We got a quick anything on hockey? Who's leading?
Rangers win. They are in tonight. They can clinch a playoff berth. The Bruins, overall league best NHL top team, 110 points, Bob. Detroit is looking to get in the playoffs, and they ended the Bruins' 9-game road winning streak last night. So the Rangers are pretty comfortable. They will be in. The Flyers, Red Wings, Leafs, Caps, and Jackets are looking to lock up that last spot. So it's a race for the final spot there. Out west, Minnesota, Phoenix, and Dallas are trying to get those final playoff spots as the other teams are pretty much wrapped up. Let's go Huskies. Final Four bound, maybe championship bound Monday night. We will see, and we'll be back live next week to figure out what happened. Wave goodbye, Bob. If they maybe give you...